Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Mathigon webinar on exploring numbers and fractions on Polypad. I'm David Poras, head of content at Mathigon, and I'm really excited to give you an overview in this webinar of how to use all the virtual manipulatives on Polypad to explore numbers and fractions. Thanks for joining, whether you are on the live stream or watching the recording after the fact. Thanks for coming aboard. I hope you find this webinar a valuable and good use of your time. As we're waiting to get started, I'll start at around 7:02, 2 minutes past the hour on the East Coast. If you want to introduce yourself in the chat here on the live stream, it would be great to know who we have, maybe where you are in the world and your role in education. Certainly, in the live webinar, it is helpful for me to get a sense of the roles folks have in education. As I said, my name is David Poras. I am a middle school math teacher outside of Boston, Massachusetts in the United States, and I am the head of content for Mathigon. Hey, Kurt from Seattle, welcome. Thanks for joining. I'll give folks another minute to hop on the live stream, and then I will jump into exploring numbers and fractions on Polypad. Hi, Kelly. Welcome from Indiana. Awesome. It's always fun seeing our international folk. There's our first one, Lisa from Ontario. You teach grade 6. Hi, Stacy. Oh, they're coming in now. Hi, Jenny and Kelly. Oh, Kelly again. K5. No worries. KT. Yeah. Alexandra, welcome. A beginning teacher. Thanks for joining the profession. We're happy to have you. Hi, Chris. Oh, with a nickname Dort. Awesome. Great to see some familiar names in this webinar. Hello, Shirley. All right, it is 7:02. Let's jump in here. Keep those comments going in the chat. If you have questions along the way, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'll be paying attention to the chat as well as doing the presenting, so feel free to keep those questions and comments coming along in the chat. Awesome. Welcome, Christy from California. I missed a couple, but it's great to have everybody here. Here I am at Mathigon.org. Mathigon is a mathematical playground with free courses, manipulatives, tools, all sorts of activities. Everything on Mathigon is totally free. So everything I'll be showing you in this webinar is free for teachers and students around the world. I can't not give a shout out to Erica, a college student from the Philippines. Welcome from the Philippines. It is always exciting when we have an international crowd, so thanks for joining. All right, so here I am at Mathigon. I'm going to go to Polypad. There's a link right at the top to Polypad, which I could click on, or there's a blue Launch Polypad button, which I just did, and I get to this blank open canvas. It's an open canvas for exploring, creating, discovering mathematics. When you first go there, you'll see on the left are a number of tile categories. The first one is open. It's the geometry category. We are here to explore numbers and fractions. So I'm going to click on numbers, and we have all these different categories of number tiles and bars and frames, all sorts of tools to explore numbers. I'm just going to give you a quick tour of many of these tile types, and then I will explore some tasks, some teaching ideas, answer questions, and dive into a number of mathematical explorations that you can do with these virtual manipulatives. So I'm going to start by building the number 36 in a variety of ways. One thing that I really love here on Polypad is the ability to use multiple tiles to represent the same number in lots of different ways. So I'm going to go to our number tiles, and you can see we have a 1 block, a 10 block, and a 100 block. You can add tiles to the canvas just by a simple click. I clicked on that 10 block and it got added to the canvas. I could do a click and drag as well. So there's 30. That one went right on top of it. Now I'm going to add 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I've made the number 36. As I'm exploring on Polypad tonight, every tile has an action bar. The action bar at times is at the bottom of the canvas. You can see here this action bar is at the bottom. It's right now pinned to the bottom. When you first go to Polypad, the action bar might be right underneath the tile. So you can see here as I'm clicking on the tile, the action bar appears for that tile. And different actions appear for different tiles. So one of these actions on a 10 block is split. So I can split it, and now you can see I can pull these apart. I'm going to click and drag all 36 of them, and I'm going to merge them, and it'll make one group of the 36 tiles. Let me zoom in a little bit here. And so now I have this group of 36, and it is arranged into 14 groups of 2. Here's 1, 2, 3, 14 groups of 2, plus 8 left over. So this amount at the bottom is the plus 8. And what is great about this merge of the number tiles, this black handle here, this is the icon for a handle for how you can move things. I can click and drag this black handle to make different arrangements of these 36 tiles. So there's 12 by 3. I'm going to copy this tile. I can copy this with the copy button on the action bar. As the more you use Polypad, the more often you'll be copying tiles, and a shortcut is just the C button on your keyboard, not Command C or Option C or Control C, just C. So I just copied that, and I could make this into a different group. Let's do a 9 by 4, and maybe I'll do, I could leave it as an 8 times 4 plus 4. So now what I like about this label, it shows me that 36 can be arranged into 8 groups of 4, but then there's 4 left over, where here it can be arranged into 9 by 4. So 9 times 4 is 36. If you're exploring and you don't want those labels to appear, there's a gear for each tile. And as you click on the gear, a number of options appear for that tile. So if I want to not have the labels appear, I can untoggle that option to show the labels. That only applies to that specific tile. So if I want to have it off on all tiles, I'd have to do that. But if I copy a tile, that option stays on the copied tile. So if I want students to explore these and not have the labels appear, I could build one, turn off labels, share it with them, and then all the labels would be turned off. So that's the number tiles. We'll do lots of explorations tonight with the number tiles, but let me go on just to show you additional tile types. Here are number bars. I could build 36 with, 4 8s and a 4. So I'm going to copy that. There's 4 8s and then a 4. And what's nice is the size of these bars is the same size as the number tiles. So I could put the 8s on top of this arrangement of the 36 with the number tiles and show that those number bars are the same size, right? So we could do that as well. These number bars might look like the Cuisenaire rods that you might use in your classroom. The colors are different. And so I want to share with you another place in Polypad to change the settings on tiles. And this is on the gears on the right-hand toolbar. So there's a toolbar at the bottom, which I haven't talked about much yet. There is an action bar that appears on a tile that you can pin to the bottom of the canvas with this thumbtack. And then there's all these options on the right. And the first option I just want to show you is customize. So I'll click that gear to pull up all these options, many of which I'll be talking about over the course of the webinar. But one which is unchecked, which I'm going to turn on, is a different set of colors for the tiles. So I'm going to click that, hit apply, and now you'll see that these bars on the right change color to the more traditional Cuisenaire rod colors. And now if I put an 8 on the canvas, it's brown. Certainly, you can change the color. There's a color picker down at the bottom. So any tile on the canvas, you can change the color. Let me go back to the Customize UI menu and apply it back so I'm just at the regular colors. So there are number bars and number tiles. Let's show you the number frames. So here is a 10 frame that you might be used to using as part of your work with young mathematicians. I can extend it in both directions. So there is a 20 frame. I can extend it down. So there's 40. And I can click fill, and it all gets filled in. So there is 40. I can delete those. And there I've made 36. If you double click on a counter, it'll flip over. You could also use the button to flip it. So there are the number frames. Again, if I wanted to just have a 10 frame, I could fill it like that. We can have a 5 frame, and you don't need to hit the fill button. You can take those, and I can copy them with the C button on my keyboard and make 3. So all sorts of fun with the number frames. And then we have these additional number frames to make 36. So let's do, what's that? 10, 10, 10, there's 30, and let's get the 6 out here. So there's 36. I'm going to show you in a few minutes how all of these tile types can interact with each other. And again, these are the same size, right? So that's a group of 10, fits right on the number tiles in a group of 10. So there's 36. We have these number cards, which are just numbers on a card. So I'll build this with an 8, an 8, an 8. There's 4 8s. And I need 4 more to get 36. So there's 36. And what's great about the number cards, when you put them on top of each other, it finds the sum of those two cards. So I can pile these all up and say, oh, yep, I correctly built 36. So there is 36 in the number cards. Let me add a number line to the canvas. So I'm going to click and add a number line to the canvas. You can change the starting point of the number, the ending point, the size of the gaps, how many divisions between the number lines. I'm going to show you later on in the webinar all the customization features on the number line. But for now, I want to make it so this 8 is 8 on the number line. You can see that doesn't match up. That's 4. And so the gear option, when I click on the number line, I'm going to go to the gear. The width of this number line right now is 2. You can see because the size of the gap, 4 of them got me to 8. So I want to change the width of this to 1. And then there we go. Now the 8 matches up, and I could extend this all the way out to 36. So let's build 36 on the number line here. I'm now just copying these tiles and moving them along. And 4 8s is 32, as we've seen a bunch. And I add in another 4 and get 36. But what is nice about being able to very quickly change what's happening on the number line, if I change it where my step now is not 1 but 2, so now I'm going to count by 2 on the number line, still has a width of 1. Now on these frames, I can have those match up with the correct numbers because every one of those bars is 2. So there's 10, 20, 30, 36. So I think that is super fun to do as well. Let's keep going with these prime factor circles. If you've played the game Prime Climb from Dan Finkel over at Math for Love, you might be familiar with these prime factor circles. 36 is not on the list here, but I can type it in. So I'll type in 36 and put that on the canvas. And you can see these 4 different sections of 36, 2 oranges and 2 greens, and those represent its prime factorization. So I can pull that apart and see that 36 is 2 times 18. If I put the 2 back in, I could pull out a green one and see that 36 is 3 times 12. Of course, I could pull out a couple. So there, 36 is 6 times 6, or do its complete prime factorization, that is 2 times 3 times 2 times 3. And so I'll explore a number of tasks tonight that these prime factor circles are great for. And one of my favorite ways to represent numbers are these dot arrangements. So all these things that I have showed you in the first 12 minutes of this webinar, you might have explored before, this idea of the number bars and the frames and the cards and the tiles. Not untraditional things to represent numbers. These prime factor circles are kind of different, especially where you can pull them apart and put them back together. But a dot arrangement, I think, is a really beautiful way for students to experience what's going on with numbers. So again, I'm going to type in 36, and I'm going to put that on the screen here. And what's pretty cool is I can pull out circles, and then I can think about what number I have left, kind of like the prime factor circles. But what I want to show you is how these connect to the prime factor circles. So here I see on 36, I see 2 bigger circles, then inside of that, 2 of the green circles, then 3 of the white circles, and 3 dots in each of those circles. And so if I build that out of the prime factor circle, it was 2 of the bigger circles, and then 2 of these circles inside of that one, and then 3 circles inside of that one that was a 2, and then 3 dots inside of that one. Now, I'm just like showing you this, how this works. If I were doing this in school, I would just let kids play and go and explore and see what they notice and wonder. But I just want to show you how these work so you can be more prepared for that activity in your classroom. And so when I click on this dot arrangement, a couple of things appear that are new in the action bar. There's a combine and split and a reorder. And the first one that I want to do is a reorder. So I'm going to click this. You'll see this dot arrangement is going to change arrangement. It's still going to be 36, but the arrangement's going to be different. So I'm going to I'm going to copy the whole thing and move it over here so you can see how it changes maybe. I'm going to click this and do reorder. And now you can see it's 3, 3, right there. Oh, sorry, it's 2 of the circles, and then 3, and then 3 and 2 in each. And what happened is in the reorder, this 2 moves to the back. So now the order is 2 bigger circles, 3 circles inside of each of those, 3 orange circles inside each of those with 2 in each, right? So it changed the order of the prime factors that are making 36. And let me just do it one more time to show you how this works again. Now, when I click reorder, what should happen is the 2 is going to go to the back. So now there should be 3 big circles with 3 circles inside of those with 2 circles and 2 dots in each. So let's hope that works out. There it is. 3, 3, 2, 2 is super fun with the dot arrangements. And finally, the other thing here is the combine button. So I'm back to my first one. I'm going to click combined and let's see what happens. Now it's 2 groups of 2 with 9 in each, because what happened, these got combined. So now that's a 9, right? And if I hit combine again, oh, I did split, sorry. If I hit combine again, now it's 2 circles of 18 in each, right? And if I hit combine one more time, that 18 is going to multiply with the 2 to make 36. So there is the 36. And then I can undo all that by just doing split, 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 split. I feel like I could do a whole webinar just on these like dot arrangements. It is super fun. But let me continue on with what other options that we have here to explore numbers and fractions. I just showed you the dot arrangements. I'm going to skip the number grids. I'll do more about that in the webinar. We have a rec and rec, which I could copy 4 of them. I'm just using the C button again on my keyboard to copy. So there is 36. There's 36. We move all these over. If you've explored the wonderful world of exploding dots with James 10, you know how wonderful, how helpful those are to exploring numbers in different bases. If you haven't, there is a link right here to learn more about exploding dots. So I encourage you to click that link and go check it out. But I'm going to add in a bunch of dots in this first box. I'm going to copy them. Let's make 20 first. I've made 20 dots in the ones place, and these dots explode as I drag one to the tens place. 10 of them are going to make a fun kind of popping sound and make 1 in the tens place. Here we go. There we go. You might have heard that sound. I got to turn the volume up here. So that is 10. There's 20. I need to add another 16 to get up to 36. My sound effects might be off. Yep, play sound effects. They're on. I think it's just quiet. So let me do this one. Here we go. That is 16. And if I merge one more, I've built the number 36. 3 in the tens box and 6 in the ones box. Now, what's really wonderful, I can take all these and drag them back, and this 1 is going to make 10. Let me pin the action bar here so it's not in the way. And I can do all that, and now I'm back at 36. And I can go back and forth showing the different ways to build 36. So that is super fun. Look at all of these ways. Let me just do a zoom out on this canvas, right? A super fast overview in about 13 minutes of all the ways to use these tiles to build 36. They all interact with each other on the canvas, and I want to show you that with our balance scale. So I'm back in the tile section on the left, and I clicked on algebra, and I'm going to open the balance scale. And let me add this to the canvas. So here's a balance scale. I'm going to add it to the canvas. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. And what I want to show you is all these tiles function at the same time with each other on the balance scale. So here's the prime factor circle. That's not balanced, right? That is just 36 on one side and nothing on the other. But if I put the 8, 8, 8, 8, 4, now it's balanced, right? If I take off an 8, that's not balanced anymore. But I can put a number bar back on and I could balance that, right? So now that's balanced again. I could take off this prime factor circle and go over to this, array of 36, and now it's balanced, right? So that I'll be showing you a couple of activities to use with the balance scale. Our dice also work on the balance scale. So let me get a dice on the canvas, and I'm going to get 36 up here. So I actually wanted to get a 3. Let me roll the dice, see if I can get a 3. Oh, I did on my first try. Wonderful. So here, 4 3s is 12, right? So I'm using the C button on my keyboard. That is 12 threes, I think it's 36, right? I've had a full day of teaching like many of you. As I mentioned at the beginning, I'm a 7th grade math teacher, and my arithmetic skills go down drastically past 7 p.m. after a full day of teaching. So if I make an arithmetic mistake, please tell me. But I think that's 36, so I'm going to get those tiles off there, put this on the scale, and if it balances, yes, I did it correct. So that's super fun. I balanced 36, but now watch what happens. I'm going to take these 36 and roll them all at once. Oh, and now it's less than 36. See how the scale went down. And so, I mean, a really deep mathematical exploration here of like, what are the chances of getting 36? No way! I got 36 on my second time. I practiced this a lot. I must have done it about 30 times, and I never got 36. So I'm going to take a screenshot of that just because that makes me really happy. I never got that in my practicing of this webinar. But I'd love to know the odds of doing that, right? Was I really unlucky? Was I lucky in that moment? What does it have to be less than 36? How often does that happen? Right? So a lot of fun can be had with these dice and rolling dice. So this is a super fast introduction to numbers. Let me pause here for a moment and just see what's going on in the chat. Audrey says, yeah, awesome. I know that was a pretty exciting moment for me to get it exactly to 36. I got to go back and figure out that probability because that seems really unlikely. And I'm glad it's recorded live on YouTube. I'm not making it up. Jenny, yeah, exploding dots, addition with regrouping. If you haven't explored the world of exploding dots, go click on that link in Polypad. It is wonderful for all sorts of things to do. And Audrey, another comment, intuitive and a program doing exactly what you want. Yeah, awesome. That is something we have worked really hard to do. So any other questions, keep them coming. But I'm gonna clear the canvas here and talk about fractions and then dive into some tasks that I think can be helpful in the classroom. So really quick overview here of all the number tiles. Let me go to Polypad, discard, yep. And let me just show you something about our fraction bars and circles, and then we will move on to explore some tasks. So here's the fraction bar. It is forced. There are 2 handles on the fraction bar. This first handle changes the size of the fraction bar. So I could even go above a whole if I wanted to. And this bottom handle, the triangle, will change the amount of fraction bar that is shaded in. So I could stop at a fourth, 2/4, and so on, right? And then there are a number of actions on the fraction bar. One is a split option. So that split option makes all of these fraction bar pieces that I can move around. There's a merge option to put them all back together, and a rename option. This is going to be the same amount of stuff, just with a different name, a different size of the piece. So when I do this in the toolbar, it only goes up to 12ths, but with our rename option, you can go all the way up to 30 seconds. And I love that students have to click that button of rename because that's really what we're doing. We're giving the fraction a different name here. Our fraction bars are available in fractions or as percentages, decimals, or no labels at all. All right, so that's how our fraction bars work. Let's do some tasks here. So I'm going to show you some of my favorite ways to use all these tools to explore numbers and fractions with students. If you have questions along the way, feel free to drop them in the chat. And I'm going to start off by showing you where you can find a number of these tasks. And this is on our task page, which you can access by clicking the top toolbar. It says lessons. I'm going to open it in a new tab. So I have my Polypad here. And this is just at mathigon.org/tasks. So you can get there right by clicking on lessons at the top, or you can just type in mathigon.org/tasks. And it's a growing page of lesson plans and teaching ideas and puzzles and games. But I'm going to go to the class openers and math talks. And if you've been on a webinar of mine before, thanks for coming back. You might have seen this activity before. It's called What To Cards. There are the instructions here of how to play. Here's a video of me playing it with my daughter who's in 3rd grade, so you can hear a 3rd grader engaging in this activity. I do it in my 7th grade classes all the time. Students love it just as a quick warm-up. Sometimes they'll do it in pairs. Sometimes they'll do it as a whole class. Sometimes I've posted the link in Google Classroom. I've seen kids just doing it in a study hall, which is super fun to see that students are engaged by this activity. So here's how it works. There are playing cards on Polypad under probability and data. And so I put cards ace through 10 on the canvas. I've clicked and dragged to select them all. I'm going to turn them over. I'm going to stack them, and I'm going to shuffle like 3 times. So I'm going to shuffle. You might hear the sound effect. Yeah, so you know I'm shuffling. And I'm going to double click to draw the top card. So I'm putting that card on this balance scale and this card. So I have 2 cards on the scale. The value of the cards works on the scale. And now the task for students is to figure out what those 2 cards are in 10 or less helpful moves. And so I'll kind of do this out loud, and you'll see what I mean by a helpful move. So maybe I'm going to put, 5 and 3 on that side of the scale. Well, that didn't change anything, but it's pretty helpful. That tells me these cards are heavier than 8. So this is a fraction bar that I've put on the canvas here with the labels turned off. And you can see I'm just using it to kind of cover up all the numbers that are less than 8, because I know these 2 cards are heavier than 8. Here's a number line that I built, has a width of 2. Here's a 10 frame that I'm using to keep track of my moves. So that was one helpful move. I double click. All right, maybe I'll put the 2 on here. Let's see. Oh, that was super helpful. Thank you. That's telling me it is less than 10, right? So I think in 2 helpful moves, I know those 2 cards are 9. Let me just show you that I can do like a roll here, right? And we can get like some feedback in real time. There we go. I mean, this is like staged beyond belief. I promise you this is not staged. I'm just rolling dice well tonight. It balances with 9. So in 2 helpful moves, I got 9. And now I'm going to try to figure out what each individual card is. So that is less than 5. That was a helpful move. Let's see how it compares to 3. It's 3. I have found the 2 cards in 4 moves. So this is a 3, and that means this is a 6. It's often not that easy. It takes a lot more moves than that. But that is a fun task for students, just to go, the algebraic thinking of balancing there that's going on. Is it more? Is it less? What 2 cards can it be? Really fun task to explore. I'm going to show you another task that really emphasizes the different representations of numbers. This a teacher put out on Twitter, and sharing with her permission. This was Mary Kemper on Twitter. I'm going to copy the link and put it in the chat here because it is not on our task page yet. So there's the link. But the task here for students is, here's a number line 1 through 20. You just have to put the numbers in the right place. But what a great engaging task for students to think about what all these numbers are. So here's 1, right? I'll put 1 over here. Can I find 2 in this representation? There's the dominoes. We have dominoes. There's 2. What's 3? 3 is just a card, right? Where's 4? 4 is a dice, and so on. I'm not going to go through and do the whole thing, but you could have students do this, and then you could have students make their own and say, you have to use 5 different representations, and you can't use the same one for the same numbers. Here is a version of it completely filled out that has a balance scale on there. And maybe the task for students is to find groups of 3 or 4 of them that all balance with each other. So maybe I do 7 and 5 on one side. What's that? 12. So I'll do 10 and 2 on the other. So that should balance. And I'll take all these and, I'm trying to do a click and drag. So there's a group that's balanced. Let me do one more. 9. I got the 3 there. 9. And 4 is 13. So I could do 12 and 1, right? That should balance it. So there's another group that's balanced. So far, so good, right? But is it possible to get these into 5 groups of 4? I don't know. That could be a fun thing to explore. I'm gonna put these together where I've now created 5 groups of 4 that are balanced, off and running. See how you can do. Chester, games and mathematics improve engagement and motivation. I agree. So I think that activity with the balancing the scale, this just going and trying to balance these numbers with different representations can be a nice activity as well. All right, I'm going to dive into some fractions and decimals and then come back to a number line task at the end. Before I do, I know I'm bouncing around a little bit. I hope it's I hope I'm not going too fast. The goal of this is really like an introduction to numbers and fractions on Polypad. So you might, at some point when you come back, you might want to wait. You might be asking yourself, how did he do that with the number lines again? How did he change the width of the number line? So I just want to share with you a few places as to where you can go to learn more in the moment. So a few things that are built into Polypad. One, when I expand a section, so I'm going to click on numbers, you can see a question mark appears. I'm going to open this in a new tab. This goes to our whole detailed instruction guide on the number section. So there's a whole section on number lines. So here is a 3-minute video explaining how to use all the tools of number lines. And so there's a question mark next to each category that you can expand to find the instructions on that category. There's also a question mark on the toolbar on the right, which pulls up a window of help and support. Here are the same tutorials that you can find in those question marks, but I want to show you our main help and tutorial page, which is mathigon.org/PD. So I'm going to drop that in the chat as well. And this page has like a getting started page for 4 different grade bands. So again, if you're new and you're a 3rd grade teacher, you could go explore Welcome to Mathigon grade 3 through 5. Here are further links to all those user guides. I showed you the one for numbers. We've done a number of webinars over this school year. We're here right now, May 11th. The recording will be up in a couple days, but I did one a couple weeks ago on geometry. March was exploring data science. There was just a comment about puzzles. So there was a whole webinar on puzzles, games, and art. So go watch those webinars. Our last one is coming up in June. We're going to have 6 wonderful teachers share how they use Polypad in their classroom. So come check that out. I'm not going to spend a lot of time tonight about the teacher tools on Polypad. You can make you can make classes. You can import from Google Classroom. You can have students join your class. You can share Polypads with them and view their work. I'll answer questions about that at the end. But if you want to watch these videos, these are short. Here's a 4-minute video. Here's a 3-minute video just on the mechanics of the teacher tools. And we've had a great guest speaker series over the course of this school year. So these are less Polypad Mathigon focused, just really interesting ideas in the world of math education. So I encourage you to go check those out. But on with the show. Let me go back to a Polypad. And I want to do a representation of fraction addition. So I'm going to go down to the bottom toolbar and add an equation to the canvas. So you can see I can do a drawing tool, which I haven't used yet. I can do a construction tool that came up a lot in the geometry webinar. There's text boxes and equations. I want to add an equation, and I'm going to start typing. I'm going to do 3/5. It automatically makes a fraction plus 5/6. And let me make this a lot bigger. And you can see that it shows me underneath that equation what that equals, 1.433333. When I'm first doing fraction addition exploration with students, I don't want them to see that answer. So again, under the Customize UI option on the right, I'm going to open this, and I'm going to turn off Evaluate Equations. So I'm going to turn this off and click Apply. And now you can see that's gone. So if I were doing this in school, I did this with my 6th grade classes last year, I would turn that off, I would save the canvas, and I'd share this canvas with them that just has 3/5 plus 5/6 on it, but the evaluating is turned off. So they would open it, and that's turned off, and we start exploring fraction addition. What I think is really powerful about Polypad is the ability to represent the mathematics behind an algorithm, right? Like, why do we need common denominators? So let's just try to explore fraction addition with these fraction bars and see if we can make some sense of the process for adding fractions. Eventually, we want kids to abstract that idea, right? And like own that process by thinking about the visual, but these tools can help them get to that point. So I'm going to first start with a number line. So we know how to find that under number line. And I want a number line that's going to go, I'm going to stop it at 2. So you can see there's this black tab that I can change the size of things with. I'm going to stop it at 2. I know for this activity, I want a width of 20 and 2 divisions. That will split the number line in half. So there we are. There we have 3/5 plus 5/6. I just built a number line. And I picked a width of 20 because I know that the width of a fraction bar is 20. So there's one hole. You can see it matches up with the 1. But what we're doing here is 3/5. So there's 5/5. I'll use this to make 3/5 plus 5/6. So there is 6/6. There we go. I've done 3/5 plus 5/6. And I'm going to explore how I might come up with an estimate and eventually an answer to this question. And I'm going to use the balance scale to help me, because what's wonderful about the balance scale, these equations that I built this fraction addition problem with the equation tool, they also work on the balance scale. So I'm going to put 1 on each side here. And I'm going to make a really bad guess of this, right? I'm going to say, I don't know, here's 1.5. I'm going to say maybe 1 4/10. Actually, that's not an awful guess. So I'm going to go here into the equation tool, and I'm going to type 1 4/10. Oops, that's 14. That's 14/10, which is the same as 1 4/10. So there's 1 4/10, and you can see it is not balanced, right? That addition problem is more than 1 4/10. And it was tricky because this 1 is right in the middle of the 6, right? So I don't know exactly like where that is. But what I can do is start to look at these fractions in different names. So again, I showed you this option to change the name of a fraction. Here, let me just show you that when it's 5/5, and I click the option to give it a different name, because it's a whole, it can make 6ths and 7ths and 8ths and 9ths and 10ths. But now because it's 3/5, when I click the option or the action to give it a different name, it's going to go right to the next possible common denominator that will keep the numerator a whole number. So this is going to make it into 6/10. So I'm going to take this and copy it over here. So I've made this, and so now it's balanced, right? But if I change this name to 6/10, I can confirm that I've kept it balanced. So I love that immediate feedback for students of, okay, I gave 3/5 a different name. Does it stay balanced? Yes, it does. I did not mess it up. If I counted wrong and I thought it was 5/10, right? Oh, that's no longer balanced. I must have done my calculations wrong. So that is 6/10. Let me do a rename here. That looks to be 10/12. Oops, 10/12. And that should be the same name. Yeah, cool. Now, oh, that's pretty close. It looks like it is, that might be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 5/12 maybe. Let's see, how's 1 5/12 going to be? Oh, no, that's not it either, because that 1 isn't right there. So let me do it again. I'll just do one more time. Let's go to 15ths. That looks to be 9/15, right? So, and I love kind of like doing this where students are doing different denominators to get us to that point. Oh, that 18, that might be right there. So let's see, what is that? 15/18. And so it's 1 whole and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Is it 1 8/18? Spoiler alert, it's not, right? But now we've gone on the other side. And if I kind of zoom in, you can see that 1 is not right there, right? So the goal is to get that 1 to be right at the end of a fraction bar, which means we need these pieces to be the same size, right? And so if I do it one last time, a couple more times, I can get up to 30. That's the first time they have the same thing. And what's that? 18/30. I would go through and count them. And that is, what do we got? 25/30. Hopefully that'll stay balanced, right? Which comes out to 43/30. 43/30, which should be balanced. It is, and I've gotten 1 13/30, right? But I think that like process of changing it one amount at a time, right? Let's go from 5ths to 10ths and 6 to 12ths and see if that helps. Oh, that didn't help. Got us closer, right? At each option, when I was renaming it, we made further progress into getting this like at 1. And we would do lots of examples and build the process of like, yeah, how can we go right to common denominators, right? This was really just a first exploration of that, but I think it can give you some ideas as to how to use the tools. Next thing I want to show you is decimal multiplication, because for too long as a teacher, when I first started teaching, it was just like, count the place values and move it over, right? If there's 4 decimal places in the number, you go over 4 loops. And I did not do a good job of building conceptual understanding of that algorithm. I've gotten better over the years, but I want to show you a way that I now do it in Polypad. So this is a task that is pre-built. I'm going to type in decimal. So on our task page, I'm now at mathigon.org/tasks. I'll put this in the chat as well. And there is a search field. So I just showed you one with fractions. You can see I type in fractions. We have a number of tasks here. Actually, with fraction is a better word to type in because here's color mixing fraction bars. But I want to show you decimal multiplication. And here is a video of me kind of talking through, but I want to pull up a Polypad. And in fact, I'm going to open this in a incognito tab. If you are doing it on your own, you don't need to do it. But in a incognito tab, these question builders are question marks. I will show you later on how to add a blank question mark field to a canvas. But if I showed you this in my teacher account, the answers would be in these question marks. When you open it as a student or in a different account, these question marks, these question fields are blank for students to fill in. So this is a good way to visualize multiplication, right? I have a number line here that's counting by twos and twos, the area model of multiplication. When my students are doing decimal multiplication, they've done this with whole numbers a bunch. So this one green square is a whole because there is 1 and 1, right? I'm going to pin the action bar here. That is 1, right? Here is 1 and that's 1. So that's one whole, which therefore I can go to my pen tool and they will quickly say, oh yeah, this is 100. This is 100. There's a 100 block. This is 30 and 30. Excuse my messy scribbling. This is 7 of them, so that's 70. And then we could count these. This is a 7 by 3 array of 21. So that's 21. I built this rectangular array for multiplication in the number section under number grids. There is a multiplication grid. So this is a multiplication grid that you can change the size of the grid with the handles. It starts in base 10 multiplication, but this dot changes the size of the base that you're doing the multiplication in. I don't have time to dive into that right now. I could put all these together and I can see that this is 351. Let me type it in wrong first. I typed in 350. I get this red X. If I type it in correctly, I get this green check. Awesome. But now, so this is quick for students. Now I want to think about 2.7 times 13. And what I love about what I'm about to show you, how easy it is to change. I'm going to click on the number line and pin the action bar back up there to change what I'm counting by. So now I don't want this to be 27. I want it to be 2.7, 10 times less. So my step has to be 10 times less. So I'm going to change this to 0.2, right? So now it's 0.2, 0.4, all the way up to 2.7. And now the size of my whole has changed. So I'm going to take this and build my new one. And this is a polygon. It's a custom rectangle polygon that I can change the size of. That's under tiles, geometry, polygons. So here under polygons, here is a custom rectangle that I changed it to be green, and this black circle changes the size of it. So now I would encourage students, find the size of 1. Well, it's this, right? Because it's 1 here and 1 here. 1 times 1 is 1. Oh, so let me keep that at the back, right? So you can see when I clicked on the multiplication grid, my green rectangle is underneath the multiplication grid. I don't want that to happen. So I can click on the multiplication grid and I can click on the gear. And one of the options is to keep this at the back. So I'll click that, keep that back, and now my green thing is on top. So I could copy these a bunch and eventually we'd get to the point. This thing that was 100 is now 10. So I'm just going to add a decimal point. That's 10. That's 3, that's 3, that's 7, and that's 2.1. So the answer to this now is not 351, but 35.1. And I get that right. And now let me get rid of these. Oh, I need one more to get the size of my whole. Now 2.7 times 1.3. So I'm going to keep this at 2.7, but on this number line, I'm going to do the same thing, make this 0.2. So now 1 is right here. And look what happened to the size of the hole. Now the size of the hole is this whole thing, right? That 1 is the size of the hole. So that's not 10 anymore. I'm going to make a mess of this because I'm just going to cross this out and say now it's here, right? That's 1 and that's 1. Cross that out, right? This is 0.3 of a hole, right? I can take this hole and put it up and say, look, that just covers, that blue stuff covers 3/10 of the hole. So that's a 0.3 and that's a 0.21, which then you put all those together and you get 3.51. Right? But what's powerful, I think, here is that the actual multiplication grid is not changing. It's 2 of these orange blocks, 13 of the blue blocks, and 21 of the red blocks. It's just what they represent is changing. And that's the underlying idea behind like moving the decimal point, right? And then finally, this is super fun. I need this to be 0.02 because now this is 0.27, and I need this to be 0.02. And as much as it's really hard to do, my students love the idea here of building 1. So now we got to extend this out. It's going to be really big on the canvas, but I think there's value in doing what I'm about to do. So there's 1 down there, and here's 1. Oh my gosh, look at this, like zoom out here, right? Oh, I need to click that to collapse it. What am I at there? There's 6. There is 8. 1 is all the way at the bottom. That's as much as I can zoom out, which means the hole here, I need to just rotate this. The hole is this big, right? This is the size of the hole. I got to get this down to 1. Oh, I know. Bear with me, but I moved the number line by mistake. Oh, that's good. I got it back. So the number line there is 1. Oh, wait a second. I didn't change that. That's 0.02. So now it's 1 all the way at the bottom. And look at that size of the hole, right? How beautiful is that? And if I go here and keep this at the back, all right, and then keep this at the back. I'm making a mess of this canvas, but it makes me really happy to see, right? We'll keep this on top. Now, we should get a really, really, really small number, right? And that really small number, as you know, is 0.0351. And as much as this this visual was a mess and maybe kind of distracting to follow, it shows really nicely that this should be a really small number. And when you get all the check boxes on a canvas, you get this nice confetti coming down on the canvas. So that was a foray into decimal multiplication. There's another task. I don't have time to do it on decimal division. So if you go to the task page and type in decimal, oh, it's not there yet. Coming soon is a task on decimal division. The final thing that I want to show you is how to use that question builder tool that I just was showing on the decimal multiplication task. On a variety of canvases. I'm going to do it on number lines. So let me add a number line to the canvas like I was doing before. There's a number line. I'm going to zoom in a bunch. And I was saying that you can change what you want to count by. So I could count by tens, but you could start at different things too. I haven't changed the starting value of a number line yet. I can make the start 30. So now I'm starting at 30, counting by tens, but maybe I count by 20s. Right? And now, under games and applications, all the way at the bottom, is where you find the question builder tile. This is only in a teacher account. So if you are in a student account, if you first made your Mathigon account and it's a student account, you won't see the question builder tool. And if you're on Polypad and you don't have an account, you won't see the question builder tool. Again, accounts are free. Everything is free. Free for teachers and students around the world. It's very easy to change your account type. So you can go to the top right and you can click on your name and go to account settings. I'm not going to do it right now because I'll lose this number line. But under account settings, you can change your account type. So now I'm going to take this, change the size of it, and let's put one, I don't know, I'm going to cover up the 70 and I'll copy it and cover up the 150. And then I need to type in those boxes what the answers are. So I'm going to type in 70 and 150. Maybe I'll move them down a little bit. Let me just do one more because I want to show you that you can also enter in a decimal here. So I could say, let's start at 0.23 and go up by 0.7. And I want students to find a couple of these numbers, right? I want them to find that, which I think I said was 3.73. So let's do that. Make that a little bit bigger. 3.73 is right there. You could do it. It's not the best, but I could change the width of this, right? So if I go here and make the width of this to be 3, now I have a little more room. I don't need this to be as long as it is, so I could go here and change that. And really there's a nice, a much cleaner picture of that. We can do it with fractions. So I could say, let's start at 1/5 and go up by 4/5 maybe. And it'll show me some of these as an improper fraction. So this one becomes 17/5, right? 17/5, 17/5. Right now it just does it as a slash, but we're going to add the ability to enter in a true fraction there. And then finally, I put this out on Twitter the past week, and it got a lot of good engagement on this, is a double number line with percents. So let me build a double number line with percents, because this I think is a really valuable tool for students. So here is one number line. I need a width of 2 on this one, which I have. I'm going to start at 0%, and my steps are going to be 10%. So you can see just by typing that in, I get a percent up there. And I want these labels to be on top. So you can see just by putting on the number line under the gear, one of the drop-down menu is where do you want the labels to appear. So I'll do that on the top. And then here's one. I'll put it right on top and use my arrows to move it down. I want no labels on this one. I'm going to go to the fraction bar in tenths and put this right here. Use this as a slider to show what amount of the percent bar I want shaded in. I don't really need these labels, so I'll do none here. Put this number line in place. Maybe go to this number line, say keep on top so I can see it here. And then add a text box because I want this to be 0. And I know that I want this number to be 140. And so my question for students would be, my question for students, which I'll add as a text box, is what is this number, right? 140 is 40% of something. And I think this comes out to be 350, right? So now I've built this. This is for students at different age groups, right? Counting by tens and decimals and fractions and percents. But I've built this all on one canvas. I need to save it. So I'm going to go to File, Save. I'll just call this Number Lines. I'm going to save it. And now I can share this with the world, right? So I can, the easiest way to share it, I can go right up here into the URL, copy it. I'm going to put it in the chat. So you can go click on it. I'm going to go to a incognito window and paste it. And now students have to figure it out. But you might be thinking to yourself, looks good, Dave, but they can just do this, right? I can just move it out of the way. I think, I'm trying to move it. I can't. I think that's actually locked in place. I forgot those were locked in place. But if they were able to move it, I could go back to my first one here, and I don't want them to be able to take this and move it out of the way. So I could, on my number line, or on this tool, I could lock the position of it. So it's in the incognito window is not able to be moved, but I can type it in. That is 70. I get my check. That's 150. I get my check. I forget what those were. Was this 17/5? Yeah. This was 350, and so on. There are all the checks. This one, let me just get the confetti. 3.73, 3.73, and there's the confetti that comes down the screen. So that is a really nice way just to make simple tasks for students. Maybe as a warm-up, right? Here's a bunch of number lines. Go find the missing numbers, I think is a valuable task for students. All right, I have just a few last things to share, and then I will open it up for questions. We've spent all the time on Polypad, and again, if you want to learn more, under this question mark is our help and tutorial page, mathigon.org/pd. I haven't shown you any of our number activities. If you teach students who are working with their multiplication facts, I really encourage you to check out multiplication by heart. It is multiplication fact practice based on spaced repetition, made in partnership with Dan Finkel over at Math for Love. There's a visual for each of the multiplication facts. The boxes are based on like how students are doing on their facts. I'm not going to go into it right now, but if you want to learn more about multiplication by heart, there's a question mark here. There's a quick overview, but more importantly, there's a link to our video tutorial on multiplication by heart. And of course, you can find that at mathigon.org/PD. Here is our multiplication by heart tutorial video. So again, we've had over 70 million flashcards answered by students around the world. And we've heard great feedback from teachers that students find this enjoyable, engaging. At most, there's 36 questions a day. There's an algorithm that is at work that picks the facts most appropriate for them based on where they are in their process of learning their facts. So it's a customized program to where they are in figuring out their multiplication facts. So I encourage you to go check that out. That is at the activity page, multiplication by heart. We have other activities here to explore. On Polypad, we have just recently launched our Polypad art contest. So this webinar was really focused on numbers and fractions, right? So I didn't really dive into a lot of the beautiful mathematical art that you can create on Polypad. You can watch our webinar on exploring geometry and puzzles, game, and art to learn more. And if you're looking for a great end-of-year activity for students, this art contest is open through May 26th, so you have about 2 weeks left. And then one thing just to share for the end of the year on our task page, if you type in end of year, we have a whole page of end of year activities for 2022. I know my colleagues and I at my school are, it's been a long school year, right? A long couple of years. And so here is a list of some of our most popular activities for students that are engaging, are easy to implement, add some math into your classroom on Polypad. We have a timeline of mathematics scavenger hunt, a bunch of puzzles on Polypad that are super fun to explore. We have some tasks where students create a puzzle and then share it with their classmates so they can make a tangram puzzle or a balance scale puzzle, all sorts of things there. And then there's some really wonderful art explorations around tessellations and fractals, and then some other Mathigon activities. Well, this has been a joy for me to share all these things with you. I hope that you found some activities that you can incorporate into your classroom. There is so much to do and explore and learn on Polypad. Let me go back over here. We love to see what teachers are doing with Polypad in their classroom. It's great to see all the posts coming in on Twitter, on Facebook, on other pages on social media, Instagram posts. If you're on Twitter and you're interested in sharing how you are using Polypad in the classroom, we love seeing it. So feel free to tag at Mathigon.org. I'm at David Poras. If you have suggestions for us of how to improve things, please pass along those ideas for improvement. Our product has really grown over the past year or so, really from teacher feedback. We have our ideas, of course, but the more we hear from teachers who are using it in the classroom, the better the product becomes. So please share. Great to see the comments in the chat. Kristen, you've increased student understanding at so many levels by including the balance in the fraction canvas. Yeah, I really like that task where students get that immediate feedback when they change the name of the fractions. Did they preserve equality or not? So I think that is valuable as well. Kelly, love Mathigon. Oh, thanks so much, Kelly. Really nice of you to say that. And yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much. So let me just go back to my screen here. I will happily stay and answer any questions that you have. That is, we're coming up on the hour, so that will end the official part of my presentation. I will leave us on the Mathigon.org/PD page to maybe answer any questions that you may have. Thanks, Kurt. I appreciate that feedback. I'm glad you found it valuable. These are here to help teachers, right? Not just listen to my own voice. So that is the goal. Of course, if you have any feedback for me about how to improve these webinars, I would love to hear it, right? Any constructive feedback would be great. So thanks everyone for coming. I really enjoyed sharing this with you and hope you got some ideas from your classroom. Again, I'll stick around for a minute or two if you have any other follow-up questions. All right. Hope to see you maybe at our guest speaker series. We have one on May 26th with Jennifer Saw, and this webinar is going to be super engaging and enjoyable. June 8th, we have 6 amazing educators from a variety of age groups of students who are going to share how they're using Polypad in their classrooms. So please come to that. And then at some point in June, this page will be updated with our webinars for the summer and for next school year. So if you enjoyed this and you want to learn more, come on back. Would love to see you again at a future webinar. All right. Well, appreciate all the thanks in the chat. This was really my pleasure. I'll give us another 20 seconds or so to see if there's any questions, and then I will close the stream. Oh, thank you. My pleasure. I didn't get into any of the classroom tools. So just to point out again, if you are new here and you want to make classes with students to share links and view their work, this series of short videos would be a really nice one to watch, as well as this video on how to customize Polypad. I showed you some of the options there, but that would be a good one to go check out as well. All right. Well, not seeing any more questions, I will say goodnight from the eastern seaboard of the United States. Maybe good morning to some of you, or have a great day. But thanks for coming, and I hope to see you all at a future Mathigon event down the road. Take care, everybody. Thanks very much.